In this video, I'm going to give you the #1 most important piece of advice that I would give to myself 20 years ago when I started mastering. And trust me, if you keep this in mind, your masters are going to be so much better and you're going to have such a much easier time mastering your own music or that of your clients. And I also have a huge announcement to make. Let's get started. I have to say, mastering is one of the topics that I get the most requests about. I wanted to make this video because after working full-time as a mastering engineer for 20 years, this is the #1 issue that keeps coming back over and over again. I see it on my clients' music, I see it on music that I have to master for TV. It's the most common problem, and it's the #1 reason why most people struggle to get a decent master and why most people struggle to get their masters to sound loud. And this is another reality. Most people will expect you to make their music loud when you're a mastering engineer. The second reason why I wanted to make this video is because on many master classes for mastering, where you have superstar mastering engineers, most of the times they never encounter these issues because they're working on perfect mixes and they only add, let's say, a little bit of boost in the low end, a little bit of boost in the top end, a tiny bit of limiting, and that's all the song needs, right? Well, in their case, yes, it might be that this is the only thing they have to do. But what happens if your mix is not perfect when you have problems like this that I'm about to show you? Let's jump into Cubase and let's take a look at how this problem looks like. Here I have two tracks, they're both unmastered, and actually one of them, I'm not gonna play it because it's not released yet, is a track from one of my clients. This was sent to me for mastering a few days ago. I want to draw your attention to this specific track because this track, I don't even need to listen to it. I can already identify a big problem. And this big problem comes down to these peaks right here. Do you see these peaks compared to this waveform right here? Let me show you how I like to explain this to my students. So if I double click on this, here's the waveform, and you will see that these are the kicks and the snares, right? These big transients right here are the kicks and the snares. And what this tells me as a mastering engineer is we have some really high aggressive peaks right here, and then we have the body of the sound right here that's really thin compared to those peaks. One of the reasons why this happens is because people, when they're in the mixing stage, they get overexcited about their drums, they make them super loud, super punchy, and then you have what we call a really large crest factor. And I want you to remember this word. This is the alpha and the omega when it comes to mastering, especially if you want to have a master that's loud. And what is a crest factor? The crest factor is the ratio between the peaks that we have right here to the average loudness. So the difference between this really high peaks of your audio and the body of the sound. Let me show you a visualization so that you can understand what we have to do in this case. So let me zoom in the waveform a little bit in Cubase and let me show you what I mean. See these peaks right here? Let me go like that. So these are all peaks that are out of control. They are peaks that don't really contribute anything to the music, the dynamics. Imagine it like this. This is not like dynamics in classical music or in jazz. This is like you went to a concert and the mixing engineer just plays the drums super loud in the mix and you have to do this because you want to protect your ears from these loud transients from the drums, but then you're also covering the music as well, the rest of the instruments. But in reality, check this out. Check how long we have to scroll until we get to the body of the music. This is way too much, and this is a great recipe for a flat sounding master, for a quiet master, for a master that has no dynamics. And this is the #1 problem that most people face. In comparison, let me show you the waveform of my latest single and check the difference. The peaks compared to the body of the song are very close to each other. Mind you, this was a mix that has no compression, no master bus processing. This was all done in the mixing stage, and I didn't even add a master bus compressor to this. The only thing that's kind of poking is this transient right here, and I'm going to show you how you can fix this very, very easily in this video. Now, when I talk to artists or my clients about this, the number one question that they have is, okay, Dom, I see the problem, but how can I tell if this problem exists while I'm mixing? Because when I'm mixing, I have several tracks. It's impossible to know if I have these high peaks. Do I have to bounce this first and see if I have these high peaks? What do I do? What if you have to master a track that has a high PSR and PLR values? What do you do then? I'm going to give you quite a few pointers when it comes to this, but before I do, I have a super big announcement to make in this video. I know many of you have been waiting patiently for this. I've received countless emails and YouTube messages. Dom, when are you going to make a mastering course? So I'm really pleased to say that it took me a while, but I wanted to do this right, and I finally did it. And I didn't create one, but I created 3 mastering courses. Why did you make 3, you might ask? Well, I asked you on emails and on my community tab on what you would like to see on a mastering course, and I realized, well, different people have different needs. So my course number 1 is Mastering in Cubase, the Ultimate Guide. And in this course, we're mastering a full track from start to finish using only Cubase tools exclusively. So you don't have to buy any plugins. I want you to learn all the techniques about mastering and be able to create an amazing professional sounding master using just Cubase tools. The second course is my masterclass about mastering in the box. In this course, I'm going to be mastering entirely different material using the best plugins and tools available that's industry standard. I'm also showing you how to do mastering with material that has big 808s and subs and how to handle challenging material like this. And the third course is my analog hybrid masterclass, where we dive into the world of analog mastering. I'm going to show you how to handle analog gear and how to combine them with a modern DAW workflow to achieve amazing masters. The idea with all these courses is that I want you to feel like you're here in the studio with me and we're mastering the track together. It's exactly what I would do if I invited you to the studio and showed you how I master a track. And it's exactly the same thing that I've been doing in the studios that I used to work when I had to train a new mastering engineer. And I want all my viewers that are interested in this to take full advantage. So I'm going to have a 40% one-time discount that is going to be available for a limited time. Just use the code YouTube40 on checkout, because after this, all the courses are going to go full price. And by the way, if you're subscribed to my mailing list, you must have already received an email with a special offer, so make sure you check out your inbox if you're subscribed. All the information is going to be in the description down below. I know many of you have already purchased the courses, so thank you so much for all the kind words. I really appreciate it, and they don't go unnoticed. Now let's go back into Cubase and let me show you a few tips on how to treat situations like this. And the reality is, if you have a trained ear, you will be able to tell if you have this problem. But I understand that this comes out of experience, so let me show you a very easy way that you can do this. All you need is 2 meters. The great news is that if you have Cubase, you already have those meters built into your DAW. If you don't use Cubase, there are many amazing meters out there that will allow you to do the same thing. The 2 meters you will need is number 1, the wave scope. And as you can see, I have the wave scope loaded up in Supervision right here. This will give you a real-time waveform representation of your audio. So when you're mixing, you can just add it to your master out, or if you're using Cubase, to your control room would be the best way. And because this allows you to see your waveform of your entire mix in real time, you can see if you have these loud peaks and this really tiny body of the sound without even having to export your mix and then load it up into your DAW or a wave editor again to figure out if you have these culprits right here. The great thing with the wave scope in Cubase is that you can make it really slow. So I have it in 10 seconds of duration, and it's very easy to see if I have those high peaks. The second meter that you need is a loudness ratio meter, and in this case it's a PSR meter, and as you can see, I've loaded up in Supervision as well. This will give you the PSR values in real time, which means that it will show us the dynamics of the past 3 seconds. So this is my PSR meter, and as you can see right here, it's really high. It shows us over 16, almost 18 dBs of peak to short-term loudness ratio. Cubase will also show us the PLR, so this is for the entire song, the entire program material. And as you can see, again, it shows us 17 dBs. And I can tell you this is going to be a really hard song to master. So now the question is, what's the ideal PSR value that you should aim for? And what happens if you have this kind of material to work with and master, and what do you do in that case? Because many superstar driven master classes out there don't answer this question because the material don't have this problem. First, let me answer the first question, and this is what PSR values you should be looking at. This is very music dependent. So if you have very dynamic music, then you might have a larger crest factor. But if you're working with pop music, with hip hop, with rock, trap music, house music, all these things, then you should aim for a narrower crest factor. So I would say you should start around the area of 12 dBs. This would be a nice crest factor for a modern sounding master. In comparison, let me play a little bit of my latest single, and like I said, this has zero compression in the master bus, no processing, and you will see that my PSR hovers around 10 dBs, 12 dBs, the PLR is around 12 dBs. So this is a way easier song to master. You can be a little bit higher, you can be a little bit lower, but the main point is to know what kind of material you're working on and know how loud you're aiming to get and mix according to this loudness so you can achieve a PSR value that makes sense. The first thing you can do if you want to remedy those really loud, out of control peaks is use a very simple brick wall limiter. And in the courses, I explain exactly the reasons why you want to use a brick wall limiter. Even the most simple brick wall limiter that doesn't have a sound, a character, is going to be perfect for this. In this case, I'm using the stock brick wall limiter in Cubase, and I'm disabling detect intersample clipping. Again, I'm explaining in detail in the course why I do this. And then all I need to do is bring down the threshold. This is a very transparent limiter. It's not designed for loudness. It's designed to do exactly what I'm going to show you here. Tame those peaks. So what I'm aiming at is 1 to 2 dBs of gain reduction. And I would play the whole track if possible and see if this is the maximum that I'm getting. I wouldn't go more than 3 dBs because then you might get into a territory where things are going to be audible. And this way, what we're doing is we're taming those out of control peaks that are not contributing anything to the material. They're just peaks that limit our ability to go loud. And just by doing this simple thing, we've gained 2 or 3 dBs of extra loudness, or 2 or 3 dBs of compression that we don't have to do. And we did it with the most transparent way. When you do this trick, the difference is going to be pretty much inaudible. You won't be able to detect that there was 2 dBs of limiting in this loud peak. But the difference that it does later on is huge. And you might think, oh, well, why don't I do it later? That's because when you start adding EQ, compression, all these processes are going to have a hard time to cope with these super loud transients. So it's much better and much wiser to do this right now before you start driving other plugins or analog gear. The next tip that I'm going to give you is if you have a track that's well behaved, it has controlled dynamics, and you only want to fix one little section or one little peak, like right here in my track, you can see we have this peak right here. In this case, I would use the old good pencil tool in Cubase and just tame this peak manually. Yes, you heard right, manually, because mastering is all about a human gesture and all about making sure that whatever you do is good for the music. So what I would do is I would get my pencil tool, and I'm not using automation in this case. I'm using this specific pencil tool. I've done a video about this if you want to learn how to use it. And what I'm doing is I go here and very, very precisely, I turn this peak down, only that specific peak. And as you can see, I'm taming this like this, and I can go even more analytical like this, create my points and make sure that this is exactly how I want it to be, so that it doesn't drive my compressors and my limiters crazy later on. You don't have to do this every single time, but if you find that these peaks are a problem, you can always do this. Of course, the most important thing is to make sure that you don't have to do this, but in reality, after mixing for so many years, as I said, I see this all the time. And what I do is I either talk to my clients and say, look, there's this problem right there. You can do this and this and this to fix it before I accept the mastering job. And if they say, look, I don't have the time, can you please do the mastering? Then you can do many other things to help with this situation and still come up with an amazing sounding, full sounding, loud master if you want to. And this, you work it up in your mastering chain until you get to the final result. I show all of these things in my courses. The reason why I made these courses is because in order to explain all these things, I would need 5-6 hours, and YouTube would really punish me for this. But I still hope that you found these tricks useful. If you want to learn more, let me know in the comments down below. I'm gonna make more videos if you're interested, because I'm still always going to do my free YouTube videos for all of you. If you decide to enroll in my courses, I hope you have loads of fun with them, and I hope you learn everything you need to know about mastering. Don't forget, use YouTube 40 for 40% off on all courses. Thank you so much for watching, my friends, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.